With Black Christmas and Halloween viewed as the founding fathers of the slasher subgenre, subsequent decades have seen so many great slashers served up, be that franchises like Friday the 13th and Scream, or standalone classics such as The Prowler and The Mutilator. Speaking of which, can someone distribute Buddy Cooper's The Mutilator 2 already please? Thank you. Unfortunately, some great slashers have flown completely under the radar of the masses for various reasons, and that's what our attention is on here. So with that in mind, I'm Andrew from What Culture Horror, and here are 10 perfect slasher horror movies you've never heard of. Number 10. Dream Home. When young Cheng Lei-sheng sees her family evicted from their low-rent housing so that high-end apartments can be built, she promises that one day she'll buy a property for her parents that will overlook Victoria Harbour. Unfortunately, both of Cheng Lei-sheng's parents pass away before this can become a reality, but she herself manages to save enough money by working 2 jobs. However, just when Cheng Lei-sheng is all set to buy her dream home, the sellers jack the price up at the last minute, which is total asshat behaviour, causing Lei-sheng to embark on a murder spree that leaves 11 residents of the apartment complex dead, but that also conveniently causes the property's price to drop a little. Number 9. Killer Book Club. Pulling a smidge for a minor what you did last summer, Killer Book Club focuses on a group of wannabe authors whose professor is accidentally killed. But don't get it wrong, this professor was no saint, as he's shown sexually assaulting one of the students, Angela, in the opening moments. When Angela tells her friends of this horrific encounter, a plan is put together to get some revenge through an elaborate, intense, clown mask-adorned prank. A prank that results in the professor's accidental death. With the death ruled as suicide, Angela and her friends agree to pretend like this whole incident never happened. That is, until a clown masked killer starts to off them one by one, or while using these kills to fuel their own twisted novel. From director Carlos Alonso, Killer Book Club is a sleek, smart slasher for the modern age, complete with some brutal kills and an absolutely banging soundtrack. Number 8. Intruder. Bar the odd cameo, a king in a few Evil Dead films, a corpse in body bags, a wrestling fan in Spider-Man, Sam Raimi has very few acting roles on his resume, but one such role came in 1989's Intruder. Here, Sam plays Randy, one of several night shift grocery store workers tormented by a mysterious killer. At the very same time, the staff have been told the store has been sold and they'll need to find new jobs. Quite a double whammy, you'll agree. With its unique store setting, Intruder manages to feel both claustrophobic and vast and spacious, plus has some really fun camera work and some extremely nice kill sequences. And if that wasn't enough, Ted Raimi joins his brother here, and there's also an appearance from Evil Dead favourite Bruce Campbell. If chins could kill. Number 7. Nobody Sleeps in the Woods Tonight. Part monster movie, part supernatural spookfest, and all very much slasher, Nobody Sleeps in the Woods Tonight is another horror effort quite released on Netflix with minimal fanfare. From writer-director Bartosz Kowalski, this 22 feature follows a group of teenagers sent to a camp where mobile phones are banned, which sounds like heaven to an old man like me. So that covers the usual logic gap of why these teens can't phone for help when some monstrous beasts rear their heads, with the threat of the day here being a couple of mutated cannibalistic twins who'd had a run-in with a mysterious meteorite. Gnarly is the order of the day when it comes to the kills of Nobody Sleeps in the Woods Tonight, and if this film floats your boat, you'll be happy to know there's a fairly solid sequel that's worth hunting down too. Number 6. Haunted Trail. It may have a little bit of a wobble in its final few minutes, but Robin Gibbons' Haunted Trail is a hugely underappreciated, super stylish slasher that focuses on, well, a haunted trail, as in one of those creepy haunted house setups where you have a bunch of goofs in suits trying to scare the bejesus out of you. To make things even more terrifying here, one of these masked maniacs really is a crazed murderer. Given how our central group is under the impression that all they're seeing is staged, that makes it all the more entertaining when some of the more brash, arrogant characters realise that some of this terror is far from fake. Tonally, Haunted Trail may start off a little more humorous than outright scary, but the tension and terror gets nicely amped up to 11 as the film starts to tick along. Number 5. Microwave Massacre. If you like your slasher movies on the cheesier side, Microwave Massacre has a whole deli board brimming with cheddar, brie, Stilton, mozzarella, and even some Baby Bell for you. Released in 1979, at the heart of Microwave Massacre is Donald, a middle-aged construction worker unhappy with the fancy, elaborate food his wife May cooks for him. While all of his work buddies turn up with bologna sandwiches, Donald opens his lunchbox to find such delicacies as giant crabs. This is a simple man after a simple lunch. Rather than, making his own lunch though, Donald instead heads to the bar to drown his sorrows, then bludgeons his wife to death when he returns home. Bizarrely, this corpse is initially left in the swanky new electric oven that May had used for Donald's lunches, before the body is chopped up, wrapped in foil and placed in the refrigerator, because where else would you keep dead body parts? And when a sleepy Donald accidentally takes a bite out of one of these parcels one night, he discovers he's got quite the taste for human flesh. From there, our lead character ends up on a killing spree, picking up women in bars and on the streets, and turning them into crowd-pleasing sandwich meat for his unknowing co-workers. Number 4. Blood Widow. As a caveat, 2014's Blood Widow is not a perfect slasher movie, but it gets a mention here largely down to how outright badass its killer is, both in terms of brutality and the sheer character design. For lovebirds Hugh and Laurie, they move to their dream house out in the middle of nowhere, with an abandoned boarding school conveniently nearby. When their pals come over for a housewarming, the group's decision to explore this old school puts them in the crosshairs of the Blood Widow, a clinical masked killer who is a former student of the school and nowadays calls it home. Visually, the Blood Widow herself looks magnificent, and the film does have some impressively nasty moments of gore, including a particularly rough leg break sequence, as the twisted Blood Widow takes great delight in her dirty work. Given the upside of Blood Widow, it's a major shame that a planned sequel has remained in development hell for the past 10 years now. Number 3. Sick. Not only is Sick terrifying because it features a crazed killer tormenting a couple of young women, but it's also terrifying because it's set during that time when the world shut down. Taking place during the dark days of the global pandemic, Sick sees the couple of best pals deciding to quarantine together at a lake house. After all, if you're allowed to isolate with one of your buddies, where better to do it than a remote, beautiful lakeside spot, right? Unfortunately for Parker and Miri though, they start to receive eerie text messages, have their phones stolen, their car tires are slashed, and it becomes apparent that something underhand is afoot. Sick has some smart twists up its sleeve, being far from your stereotypical slasher, instead having a healthy slice of social commentary dotted throughout, in addition to some properly tense action, of course. Number 2. Smothered. Released in 2016, Smothered is a fun, unique piece that turns the tables on some of the most ominous, nefarious figures in horror movie history. From writer-director John Schneider, as in Bo Duke and Jonathan Kent, Smothered features a whole host of horror favourites playing slightly skewed versions of themselves. As for those favourites, there's the likes of Kane Hodder, Bill Moseley, R.A. Mihailoff, Michael Berryman, John Kassir, and the super shredded Don Shanks, all working the usual convention circuit. And when some of these are invited to a trailer park to scare some punters and earn a quick buck, it becomes apparent that these characters, best known for playing sinister villainous roles, are now on the other side of the equation, as they're stalked by a masked killer. Throw in some fantastic turns from Bria Grant, Amy Brissett, and Shanna Forrestal, and Smothered makes for a fantastic little engine that could slasher movie that stands as one of horror's best kept secrets of the past decade. Number 1. Last Girl Standing. Criminally overlooked since its release in 2015, Benjamin R. Moody's Last Girl Standing is part slasher, part character study. As the film opens, we see a group of young adults terrorized by a masked killer. So far, so very standard slasher movie stuff. That is, until Cameron outsmarts his maniac and escapes their clutches, being the sole survivor of a bloody, brutal massacre before Last Girl Standing jumps ahead in time. From there, the film changes pace to shine a spotlight on the impact surviving such a traumatic event can have on someone. Cameron now lives a soulless, solitary existence that sees her bounce between her one-bedroom apartment and her dull job at the local laundromat, all while seeing every stranger as a threat and every noise a sign of imminent danger. Can Cameron somehow find some sense of normalcy in her life? Is she on the verge of a mental breakdown? And maybe, just maybe, has the beast she evaded in the movie's opening act, has that returned for one more round of carnage? Yes, Last Girl Standing is a slasher movie, but there's so much more going on here.